There's a fake libertarian type troll running around on Twitter, and I've done videos on this stuff before, and I guess it just needs to be said again. I need people to really think on this. Don't start with some kind of notion of this is what I want to believe. You need to seriously clear your mind. Stop worrying about what you've been told by this person or that person, whether you respect them or not. Whether the somebody who's told you differently is somebody you don't like or not. You really got to stop and think about capitalism. And I don't know if there's some kind of something that, I don't know if it has to be one or the other. It has to be capitalism, or it has to be some degree of like socialism or Marxism or communism or something like that. I don't know. But the bottom line is this. Capitalism is not just a system. It's basically it's almost like a religious belief. It's like a cult-like thing. And you can tell that just by where it came from. And I keep trying to tell people, if capitalism is such a natural, good system, how do you manifest it from nothing? Seriously. I got these things with these fake reality shows. They put people on islands and this and that and Survivor and all that nonsense. And I haven't watched it in a while, so I'm probably seeing it as more authentic than it actually is. At least in its principle. I know it's fake. But just think about it for a second. You could take a planet, you could take an island, whatever. You put a big bunch of people there. How do you start capitalism? You can't. You literally can't. What it would take is one person or some small group within that group to decide, hey, I own everything. It's all mine. But I don't want to do any work. So if y'all want to own anything, or not starve to death, or dehydrate, or anything else, you're going to have to do all my work for me. You're going to have to help me get even more power and more control over this piece of land that we're on, so I can do this to more people. That's what it is. That's what it is. I don't care what you've been taught. That's what it is. And this isn't some kind of endorsement of communism or something like that. I'm talking about one thing. Now, something we can't do these days. Focus on one thing. Leave that alone for a second. We're going to focus on this. It's like you try to talk about a Democrat and the Republicans they got to say, what about this person? Republicans, what about the Democrats? We're not going to do that. We're going to talk about one. We'll deal with the other in another conversation. We're talking about capitalism. We're not going to be, what about communism? We're not doing that. We're talking about capitalism. I want you to justify this. I want you to attempt to. What it means. All right, that's just how the beginning of it is. It has to start, and you notice this is what happened. What was England? Somebody say monarchy. Yeah, and capitalism. That's what it is. That's what it was. It's what it still is. And then you had these people come over to America. It wasn't America, was it? There's people already here. For this capitalist country to start, this Christian country, they had to take it. They had to literally steal. It's in the Ten Commandments. They had to literally kill. That's in the Ten Commandments. There's a few more things they did too. So you have to take something to decide that, oh, you have to work something if you expect to have something. What? You just took it. It's like robbing a bank and then getting mad when somebody steals from you. You took it to begin with. It wasn't yours. It's no wonder you got Israel doing what they're doing. So that's just the beginning of it. How do you keep it going? How do you keep it going? Well, you tell people, and I don't know how long you've been telling people this, But to some degree, you kind of used to be able to do it, and they made sure to crack down on it. They tell you that anybody could make it. And you could make an argument that that was never true. Because back when it was easier to achieve some sort of security or some sort of success, it wasn't that way for everyone. You know, there's racial issues. I mean, heck, how long have women been able to own property and even vote and things like that? So, you know, back in the times when it would seem to be easier to actually make something, is certainly things were more affordable, including schooling and medical treatment, cars, houses. But could everybody own it? Could everybody do that? They couldn't, could they? There's racial issues. There's differences in, you know, and men and women couldn't all do the same thing. So you can make an argument that it's never been that way. And it's just gotten harder. So again, the notion is, oh, well, anybody can make it. That's just not true. And here's the thing, it has to not be true. For capitalism to continue, it can't be true. It'll collapse. Don't you see that? If you're able, let me put it this way. I got a lottery ticket, I haven't checked it. Okay? I know I'm not counting on the lottery that much. I'm hoping for a small amount. Sometimes you're desperate, you got to try something. Anyway, let's just say, in theory, you win the lottery. You're not going to work tomorrow. Most people aren't, depending on what they won. Capitalism lost me. You see how that works? Because capitalism would have me, the reason why I'm working is because I have to pay my bills. Well, if my bills are already paid, they can't work me. And that's going to mean that I have more time on my hands. It might mean, strangely enough, in some ways, I might end up spending less money. Strangely enough, aside from what most people would do. We're talking about the big amount in the lottery. Wouldn't you make your life more efficient? Even if you buy a bunch of things you want, a bunch of things you need, get a little flamboyant, wouldn't you be more efficient? You know, and like me, I take pride in working around the house, taking care of my own. I'm never going to have a servant around the house. I'm not going to have somebody taking care of my lawn while I can walk, okay, and garden and things like that. So in a manner of speaking, you're more likely to need those things because you have to work. If you don't have to work, you're not going to need those things. Therefore, you're not spending it. Lots of things like that. Look at people with kids. I don't have kids. Well, they have to pay for childcare while they're at work. Well, if they don't have to go to work, they're not paying for childcare. So your day-to-day expenses might get, you might be spending more on food because you're out somewhere, you got to buy it. You know, you don't have time to prepare meals to take to work. Well, you're home. You don't have to buy those things anymore. You can make it at home. Your day-to-day expenses, in theory, would get even cheaper. You'd have time to sort of grow your own food. You would have time to spend the extra, you'd have the money to spend and time to buy local goods. Help out your community. See, capitalism is dependent on people not making it. They tell you everyone can make it. It can't be true. It'll destroy itself if that's true. Capitalism will fail if there's no poor people. The notion that anyone can make it, while the whole system is vital that most people don't. Who in the hell you think's working at McDonald's and Burger King? People who just want to be there? You think about how many companies would start just failing like this if people made it. You start seeing these fast food restaurants just dropping like flies. Factories shutting down. Those people are there because they have to be. And even if they like their job, there's other things that they want to do. Even if they like their coworkers, you can hang out with them outside of work. Capitalism is dependent on people not making it. It's the lifeblood of it. It will die if people make it. Don't let people tell you that in capitalism, everyone can make it. That's just not true. It can't be true. It's not me just saying it's not true. It literally can't be. It's built into the system that you can't make it. How many rich areas of the country do you think is going to have factories? They're not. You know, there's people from rich parts of the country don't even know what Walmart is. Why do you think that is? Because they don't need it. That's what's going to happen. And they're attacking communism. And here's the thing. I don't have to know too much about communism to not like capitalism. And I've never called myself a communist. I've never called myself a socialist. I've never called myself a Marxist. I focus on one thing at once. This system is bad. Common sense. This can't go on. And the only alternative to it is you'd have to have some sort of morality to it, to capitalism, and that's kind of adverse to it. It hurts the function of it. The function of it is opportunism. If somebody trips, falls down, you strip the body and keep moving. Hey, somebody can't pay their house payment. Oh, foreclosure. That's what that's all about. What do you think most rental situations are? They're paying more for rent than they would pay for a house payment. The bank won't let them have the house payment. Either they won't approve of the house, they won't approve of their income, but then they can turn around and pay for more per month for rent. That's more opportunism. It's a vulture thing. It's parasitic. And that's another system that would go away. How many landlords do you think there would be if people made it? If anybody could buy a house, and obviously if they can pay rent, they can pay a house payment. That's just common sense. Because the house payment is usually more. So, if everybody could get into the housing market, how would landlords make it? I have seen single-wide trailers in this area of the country for $1,000 a month or more. No pets. Let that marinate for a little bit. I don't know how old the trailer is. They got no resale value. 2 years, you've paid more than that trailer's worth, if it survives that long. And I've seen them sell for less. I bought one outright years ago. It's one thing I lost my butt on. And I knew I was going to, but I bought one outright for, if I was paying $1,000 a month, I would have paid more than I spent for it in 3 years. Now, I had no house payment because I bought it outright. Had to get somewhere. Made a bad decision. But anyway, again, capitalism cannot exist without failure. The notion that anyone can make it in capitalism is a damned lie. It is. It always has been. It has to be. You can't employ people if they make it. They will employ themselves. People will do what they want to do. Now, the good news is this. Because a lot of people, if you force them into the corner about that, they'll be like, well, what are you going to do in that situation? Who's going to be a doctor? Who's going to be a firefighter? Who's going to do all this stuff? A lot of people do that because they want to do it. As a matter of fact, there's people who want to do it, have the calling for it. They can't do it because they can't afford to do it. So only people that can't afford to do it, oftentimes, don't care. Believe me, I've run across a lot of medical personnel and these little jobs that kids immediately want to get, that's in the coloring books when you're growing up. They can't do it because they can't afford the schooling. And a lot of the ones that do it, they can afford the schooling. They want the prestige. They want the title in the community. They're sort of indoctrinated that, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do. I guarantee you in this area, speaking for women, other than sort of a nothing type of job, kind of like what I've got, what I usually have, unfortunately, when you see a career, it's going to be a beautician, somebody in low end of medical personnel, a teacher, let's say beautician, teacher, medical personnel, something like that. Pretty much the same thing you could have been before you could vote, which is odd. And I'm not, throwing off on those careers. I'm not at all. But I'd like to see people, not everybody can be getting that calling. I mean, are you sure that's what you want to do? Maybe you're doing it because you think you're supposed to. It's like somebody gave you a box of female jobs and you're supposed to do it. Somebody gives you a box of male jobs and you're supposed to do it. Any of these other things are dream jobs, you just throw them away. Don't do that. Don't try to be a musician or an artist or something like that. But the bottom line is, a lot of people do feel a calling for those jobs. They do. There are people who would be a doctor if they had whatever they wanted in life. They'd be a vet. They'd be a firefighter. They'd build things. They'd be mechanics. It's capitalism these hardcore capitalists will push the notion in your head, if you finally do get them to admit all that I just said, they push this notion that everybody just sit around like slugs and nobody help anybody and nobody do anything. There'll be nothing in society if you don't make people poor. And that's what's funny, because that's a lot of libertarian people saying that. It's like, wait a minute, that sounds authoritarian. Because think about it. So let's say some crazy twist of fate did happen, and way less people are poor than what they are now. You would have to remake them as poor people to make this society continue. Because if they're comfortable enough, it's like, well, I'm not going to work that job. I'm not going to work that job. And these jobs will collapse. You have to, the more poverty you have, the more crappy jobs you can have. And the more wealthy people up above corporations that shouldn't exist, you're going to have. There's rich people who own corporations that the corporations themselves don't matter at all. That's the truth. As big as places like McDonald's and Burger King, places like that are, they don't matter at all. At all. The planet does not need them. It would be just fine without them. And that's even if you like the places. It would be just fine without them. It wouldn't change anything. At least not for the worse. So it's just something that needs to be accepted and thought about. Again, and I'll repeat it, and might even make this into a sequel, capitalism cannot exist from thin air. It has to manufacture itself from monarchy, royalty, entitlement. And these people that are pro-capitalism will tell you that people are entitled, thinking they should have things. That's literally how capitalism started. I get to have things and you don't. But if you work for me, I'll let you have a crumb or two. That's capitalism in a nutshell. And it's just evolved from then and gotten worse. Hey, you need a medical procedure? You better work for me for a while. And hey, if your cancer doesn't cripple you up too bad, I need you to come back to work. Or we'll fire you and cancel your health insurance. Anyway, you come to the pizza party,